This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
What a way to start the morning. Not 1, 2, but 3 leopards up in a tree. Welcome to your live African safari. Good morning. Oh, wow, that's a great start. Wow, let me try that again. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Sunrise Safari, where the sun has not risen yet, but we are sitting with a pixie pan female up in a knobthorn tree that is a little bit nervous because, well, we'll show you in a minute. Let me introduce myself. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me today is Gert. And remember, for the first 45 minutes of this drive, we're dedicating it to all the children across the globe. So please send your questions through, kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. And for the rest of you, #WildEarth, you know the drill, and we'll get to them a little bit later. But if you look just up at the top of the tree, there is a little cub standing up in a marula. And I couldn't work out why that female was so panicked and why she was staring off into the distance. I'm not sure what they see down there. And I'm not sure where the second cub is either. I haven't seen it. I'm hoping that it is up in a tree somewhere. I think at some point I might take a wide berth and go and investigate around in the corner. We did hear lion calls yesterday through pretty much throughout the entire day. Contact calls not too far. And there's been a lot of hyena activity. So I don't know what has put these cats up in the tree like this. But we need to be just very careful around here today and make sure that everything is okay. You can see that little one is very fixated on something. Linda, it is absolutely precious. I'm glad to see that this little cub is up in the tree for whatever reason. Maybe it is also just stretching its legs and learning to climb. That could be another thing, because there isn't much meat on this carcass. In case you have only just joined us for the first time, or you've missed the last couple of days because you've been back at work, or whatever the story may be, is that we were really lucky to have come across this female leopard with her 2 cubs and a Dacre kill. So Norman, one of the instructors at Eco Training, heard alarm calls and then responded and found, well, the scene. So we were able to come on in and view her for the last 2 days now. But unfortunately, the kill is finished. So I don't know how much longer they're going to be sticking in the area. Look at that cub's head. You see how it's now changed where it's looking? It was looking off to the right. Now it's looking down below. I'm actually just going to take my binoculars out, because I think if there is another predator moving around there, of course I'm all tangled up, typical Taylor. Sorry for the shaking movements. That is me. I'm just going to scan down on the ground below the tree to see if I can see anything moving around. Binoculars are a very handy tool. It's actually an essential tool for every safari guide, and I highly recommend getting a pair that fits your budget when you do go on a trip. You'll be surprised as to how often you'll use binoculars, even if you're not on a safari. I can't see anything, but the grass is really long and the vegetation is quite thick. So we might go and do a bit of investigating to figure out what has caught the cat's attention.
Good morning. Welcome to Djuma Game Reserve. It's very, very chilly this morning. We're all wrapped up, but my name is Lauren and I do have Davy on camera. He's semi-wrapped up. His thumbs are still sticking out of the gloves, but Mowati was seen not so long ago on the dam cam, so we did a bit of a race around to try and find this male leopard who seemingly does not want to be found, and no such luck. But we won't give up just yet. So of course I'm sure you've already been told, but please do send in your lovely comments and questions to us. Keep us going on this very, very chilly morning. Hopefully we'll have lots of activity today. We could hear hyenas cackling, sounding a bit aggressive as well on quarantine. So I've done a big loop, and we're hoping to see if we could find out what they were also fighting over. Even within a clan of hyenas, you will find that the adults will fight, even when they're clanmates, over food, just like lions, and I guess just like leopards. When it comes to food, there's no forgiveness. Okay, now I need to decide which way to go. This is what I find the toughest decision in the morning out here. If you're not on tracks, you've got to make decisions. Oh, Debbie, thank you. You think I can find Mowati? I'd love to. What is going against me is the sun's now up. He seems to be relaxed at night. Of course, leopards are nocturnal. Let's just check this pan, see if anybody's down here. So they feel comfortable at night time. They have evolved to be specialised hunters of the night. And during the day, it seems to be really difficult to spend time with Mowati. When he was mating, it was a little bit easier because, of course, he was very distracted by a lady in estrus and another male. Now, Chelapan is still got a lot of water in it. A lot of the smaller pans have completely dried up because it's winter. But this pan has still got quite a lot of water. And of course, the resident lapwing. If you come to a water body out here and there's not a blacksmith lapwing, then something's wrong. Now that the sun is up, the birds are starting to wake up too. The dawn chorus begins. And why birds call like this is mostly to say, oh, what's this Davy over here? Is it a little steenbok? Oh, it's a duiker. It's a little duiker. Oh, good morning, duiker. We can still see you. A little bit nervous. So yes, the birds are saying, this is my territory. I made it through the night. I'm still here, everyone. And it's time to sing and let everybody know it. Okay, so my search for Mowati begins. Wish me luck. We're going to bumble around and see if we can spot any signs of him.
Good morning and welcome to this part of the Sunrise Safari. My name is James Hendry. And it is lovely to be with you today. We have got Bokomoso BK Uhuru on camera. Where are your gloves, BK? He doesn't have any gloves, which means by the end of today, his hands will be frozen. I'm not giving him mine. I hope you're all very well. Our immediate plan is to try and find the hyenas and leopards that were around this clearing outside our camp sometime during the course of this morning. We found tracks of both species. So far on the animal front, however, all I have seen is a rattling cisticola and one very scared woodpecker, which flew away. Otherwise, I'd have shown it to you. Please talk to us, of course. I think everyone's told you how to do that. I shan't repeat all of the question thingies that I'm supposed to. Well, that is supposed to. I'm not doing anything wrong. Let's stop talking about that. It's about, I'd say, 8 degrees Celsius or so. It's not particularly cold. Maybe 10 degrees, actually. It was definitely colder 2 days ago. But I am hoping that something's going to pitch up here on the eastern end of our clearings. We can have a quick look at the beautiful peachening sky, I'd say it was. Ah, good. Now, one of the things that we heard earlier this morning was a hyena, and Lauren has turned up with one.
I do have one just disappearing. There's little Sutu, a little female, sub-adult, and she just came down here for a drink to this exact pan that you just saw us at. And this is why it's worth staying at these small little pans, not the big dams, but the small little pans, and just waiting a few minutes to see if anybody comes by. Now, we're not going to follow Sutu because the hyena den is actually behind us. And if there was some action this morning, we're going to head right there and see if we can see. Maybe they've stolen something from a leopard. Maybe they've scavenged. Maybe they hunted. They do hunt out here. I've missed it in this area. Oh, my goodness me. I don't know who this is. Bear with me. Following Sutu. What are these hyenas up to? You see, this one's following the scent of Sutu. Hyenas are incredible when it comes to using their noses. Really, really incredible. Now I've got another decision to make. Den or follow? Let's try and follow Davy. Hold on tight. Sorry, that's the fumes from our exhaust. They are very dramatic. They're both heading into the Mowati. Just let's see where they go. Jenny, completely agree with you. They do look like they're on a mission, which is why I think I need to follow up. I'm not going to bash on through. Maybe we should go round. Okay, let's go. Okay, I'm going to race round and see what these hyenas are up to.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to And Beyond Ngala. My name is Bunny. I have got Owen behind me as our cameraman for the day. Our plan this morning, we are going to start by heading onto the eastern side of the property. There was a leopard that we heard calling in the early morning. So far, we've driven around with no leopard tracks so far, but we found a lot of hyena tracks. That's what we're going to be following up on. We also going to head to check one of our water holes. It's quite a nice and misty morning. Most of the predators will still be active. Hopefully we will catch up with this leopard while he's still on the move and trying to mark his territory as he was here calling this morning. Boo, it is very misty indeed, and it's also a little bit cold this morning. As we drive up, we're hoping for the sun to rise quite quickly, because right now it's so misty that you can only see 5-10 meters in front of you. So for all we know, we might have driven past this leopard, maybe 20-30 meters into the bush, and so
Hello everyone and welcome to And Beyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. My name is Damon and this morning behind camera we've got Marcel. And we've come out this morning into quite a chilly open plain down here in the far south of the reserve. We've come out here in search of the two dominant male cheetah of this part of And Beyond Phinda, and we've just come across this sleeping African white-backed vulture perched up on, looks like a little marula tree. With the beautiful orange light of sunrise behind him. Oh, it's just lifted its head, having a look around. And that little tree that he's on, although it's not very big, it affords him a pretty good view of the surrounding hills and plains. And so he'll be able to, even just from his little perch here, he'll be able to use that fantastic eyesight of his to spot any signs of potential food. Of course, during the night, it was a pretty dark night last night, not too much light coming from the moon, just light from the stars. Oh, look, stretching his wings. And so during the night, predators like lions may have used the cover of darkness to hunt, and there might be a carcass lying around here for this vulture to go and feed on a little bit later, once it's sufficiently warm, or once there's sufficient wind or thermals for him to actually fly properly. Being such a big bird with such a big wingspan, it's a massive use of their energy to flap. And that's why vultures will normally wait until either there's oh, no, he's decided he's going to go for it. There he goes. Never mind. He's decided that he's not going to wait for any thermals, and he's going to go and look for some potential food. So a lot of you are saying it's a quintessential African view. I couldn't agree with you more. That vulture perched up on the tree with the gorgeous kind of orange light of sunrise coming up behind. So we're going to carry on now, and we can actually use birds like that vulture to help us to find what we're looking for this morning. Of course, we're looking for those two big male cheetah. If they do catch and kill something, and there are any birds of prey flying around, they'll see the carcass and they may fly down towards it. We're going to carry on making our way up the hill. We're going to see if we can find any fresh tracks or signs of them.
Well, I hope that vulture does lead you to where you need to find the cheetah. It seems as though we might have a cat today. The weekend has come early, but we're still sitting here with a pixie pan female who's up in the tree and looking a lot more relaxed. So we did take a little bit of a drive around, just to the other side of this knobthorn, really, and I can't see what the two cats that we have eyes on are looking at. I haven't got a clue if there's something laying in the grass or what is down below, but you can still see the cub. We've got a little glimpse of it. I'm still very focused in the grass, and Mama's focused on this cub. Now, I'm sure you're all probably a little bit on the worried side as to where the second cub is, but let's remember that when we first arrived at the scene, we didn't see two cubs. We only saw one, and we had absolutely no idea where the second cub was, or that it was even alive. So I'm sure it is just up in a tree somewhere. But we'll keep our eyes open, and I suppose we'll be listening out for any interesting sounds as well. See, he's still just looking down. So we didn't get too close to the tree. Like I said, the cubs, well, I have been saying, the cubs are very relaxed with the vehicles. They don't mind the cars at all, which is awesome. It's really, really nice to see. But I just think it's unusual that, you know, that they're both up in the tree like this and not wanting to really come down. It could have been that maybe lions even just walked through here. Obviously with the hyenas in the tree, Mom is just repositioning a little bit, and that light is so gorgeous, so we'll have a look at her. You know, even with the hyenas around, I know the cubs would get to a safe spot, but I don't think that they would look so panicked like this. Very interesting. You see, she's not even looking at us now. She's not bothered by us at all. It always amazes me as to how protective female animals are over their youngsters. Maya, it's quite possible that something happened after we left. I mean, we left the sighting, just after 4:30, somewhere around there between 4:30 and 5 p.m. So it's very easy that something could have happened. The hyenas knew that she was here the whole time with a kill, so they would have just been, laying off somewhere, and I definitely think that they would have come in and investigated around the tree last night. There was lots of hyena activity on the roads leading up to the off-road track that we've made to get into this tree. So, your guess honestly is as good as mine. Maybe another leopard came through. honestly, there's so many variables out here, and this is a high density predator area that we have here at Pridelands in Bululi Game Reserve. So there are lots of lions, there are lots of leopards. I know we haven't been seeing them, but we're going to start seeing them as we figure out their routes and their pathways. And there's definitely an enormous presence of hyena, as we've seen at the Pridelands den. You've seen all the cubs. I've said to you there's at least 9 cubs of varying ages, and then we've seen 12 adults, so there could still be more members that we haven't seen just yet. So it's very, it is very exciting, and I think must be quite stressful for this leopard. Maybe why she has been so secretive is because those cubs are young and they really are vulnerable, especially when you live around Leopard Dam. We're not far from Leopard Dam. We're a few hundred meters as the crow flies, maybe like 200 or 300 meters if you go straight through the bush. And it's one of the most prominent water holes here, so it's only going to get busier and busier. There's going to be more traffic. So we'll keep you posted. Definitely not going to go anywhere. I think this is where we're going to sit for the rest of the morning to see what other action develops.
I have something in a tree. It's not a leopard, but it is one of my favorite birds. This is a brown hooded kingfisher. No, let's see if we can get it. I think it's just plain. No, Davy is up here on the left. No, you're a different bird. No, where did the kingfisher go? There's too many birds around here. Okay, hold on. Let me find this. Oh, maybe it's back down here. We're in the Mowati, which is actually the perfect place to see birds like this. And I've not seen a brown hooded kingfisher in so long. That was a female. The females are more brown. Is that a bird? It could be. I think it is. Okay. Yes, it is. You are right, Davy. Shall we try and drive forward? There's a high chance this bird may fly, but let's try and get better views for you. Yeah. And it's off. Is this the kingfisher? Let's hope so. Yes. There we go. A female brown hooded. Now, the reason I know it's a female is because she is a lot more brown, and the males tend to have black at the top of their wing, almost like black shoulders. And that's how you can tell the difference between male and female. Gorgeous. Looking for insects. So she'll be hungry. And she perches up high on the tree and uses her eyesight to look down on the ground to find insects. It's actually not just entirely insects that she eats. She will also eat small little geckos, small little lizards, not big ones, but small ones that are scuttling around. Small snakes, can you believe it? If you look at the size of her beak. Oh, she's spotted something. She's hungry. I think she's caught something, Davy. I think she caught her breakfast. She has, look, she's got it. I have no idea what that is. There's grass there too, but I think there's an insect. She's trying to shake off the grass. Yes. Is it a grasshopper? grasshopper with an additional side plate of grass. That was so cool. She just got her breakfast. Oh, and down it goes. Ouchie. You can see how visual she is. She's using her eyesight, very, very keen eyesight, to see insects on the ground. Indigo girl, she's whacking it. I love that expression. Whacking it to get rid of the grass, get rid of any sort of mud or sediment that's attached. I thought she was going for another one. Attached to the insect and also to assist in killing it. I don't think it sounds too pleasant to have a grasshopper going down your esophagus when it's alive. Ugh. So they whack it to sort of shake it, get rid of any grass, sediment, anything that's attached to it, and then of course kill it so it goes down the esophagus nicely. That was really, really fantastic. I think we're going to come out the Mowati now. Mowati is not in the Mowati, unfortunately. Going to check up here and then come back, exit and head to the hyena den to see if there's any activity, because they've clearly been up to something. Okay, we are going to keep trundling our way through the Mowati and see what else we can see.
So she's just climbing down the tree. She's taken her kill with her. Where are you going, girl? She did that quite abruptly. She was fine. She was just sitting there, watching in the distance, and then it's like she just said, right, we got to move this kill. There isn't really anything left, but you can see she's running away with it now. I wonder where she's going to drag it to. So just let her carry on and do her thing, and then we might follow her once we figure out what she's doing. Still haven't worked out what's on the ground, but obviously she feels safe enough to come back down again, and it's fairly easy for her to drag that duiker carcass. I mean, there's just some skin left and a little bit of meat maybe around the head and on the neck. Maybe she's going to put it out of sight and drag it down. Okay, I'm going to move for us, Gert. I think we'll follow her in a bit. She's actually just going to the thicket up ahead. The tree. So there's a little road that we're going to just take here. The little cub is now not looking down, but actually looking towards mom. I wonder if she found that having it out exposed like that was maybe just drawing too much attention. It was there for everybody to see. We know that predators have got particularly good eyesight. So we'll just follow this little open patch here. We might stop and have a look at the cub, because we'll have a nice clear view. We know where mom has gone. She's just gone into that thicket. So I think, Gert, if I go through this gap... Oh, there she is. I can see her. She's still dragging it. Where are you going? Cub's still looking over its shoulder. I'm just going to focus on driving here. I don't want to knock too many branches and make too much noise. We'll have a look. This is actually very nice. And I'm going to still scan to see what is down on the ground. And where is this other cub? Maybe this little leopard was freezing and just couldn't wait for the sun to rise and decided to pretend to be a bird and climb to the tops of the trees. Okay, that obviously is not what's happening. I also haven't heard any rustling in the grass either. Sarah, yes, female leopards are very protective over their young. I was saying to you, you'll be surprised as to how animals will, or what they will do to protect their little ones. So if there's something like a hyena, a female leopard definitely try to fend it off. Maybe if something like lions, she has to weigh up the stakes. Does she put her own life on the line? Does she try? Or, does she run the risk of being killed herself? So I think every situation is different. You can see the cub is now just looking to see if it can still see mom. She just hasn't moved too far. She's just dragged the kill a little bit further away. Oh, now the little leopard looks like it wants to come down the tree. So she'll do what she can to protect her youngsters. But in the end, she might have to step away and go, it's not worth it. I can have another set of cubs, which is obviously must be hugely devastating for the female to watch her youngsters be killed. And I've seen it before where a leopard had lost one of her cubs to baboons, where they killed one of the cubs, which was obviously quite traumatic. And you could see afterwards she was visibly distraught. She was growling quite a lot. She was snarling. She was territorial calling. She was just sawing all the time. So quite sad. And I know that Thandi in the Sabi Sands is a leopard, one of our favorite leopards that we get to see. Well, I don't get to see it so much anymore, but that you all get to see. And I think she's done it too, where something has happened to the cubs and you can just see how distraught she is afterwards. So it isn't a very nice experience. Another animal that's quite protective over their youngsters is warthogs. Goodness gracious, that is an animal you do not want to mess with when she's got piglets at her side. So the same thing goes for lionesses, will often put their life on the line. And I've told you the story of the Pride of Lions, the Ngati Pride, which is what the group that we see, how the two big males came in and they killed the lioness of the Ngati Pride. And their story goes that she was protecting her cubs, so she put her life on the line, and unfortunately she came off second best. So, they really have to weigh up the pros and cons of every decision that they make. So I don't know where the second cub is. I don't think we should panic just yet. Again, it could just be somewhere, just hiding away. Maybe that's what this other little cub is looking at. Maybe it's just sitting in a smaller tree and we just haven't seen it. Now, Kyla, who's only 8 years old, yes, I think the dad of this leopards is probably at work. He packed his suitcase, he's got his lunch, and he'll be on his journey, probably marking his territory. Or maybe he's having breakfast somewhere else. Maybe someone else is doing the cooking. Who knows? So what happens, Kyla, is that the male leopards, the dad leopards, they don't actually stay and help raise these young cubs. So mom does all the work, and he sort of moves off and does his own thing. So that male leopard, who we think the father is a male called a Shimungwe male, is that he's actually got lots of children running around in this area. So he doesn't have just one wife. He's got many wives that he has to look after. So he'll walk around and he'll go and visit, the different females in the area. But it seems like they do socialize a fair amount. He's a very relaxed cat, and he was on his way. He was moving in this direction yesterday. We saw him in the morning. He was marching towards here. So, I don't know. It could be him that's around as well. And she might be a little bit nervous with having, such young cubs around. But who knows? I suppose the story will reveal itself in a little bit. We've just got to be a bit patient. I'm just not sure what's happening here. And I really don't want to go crashing through the bushes. I don't want to disturb anybody. That's why we've sat so quietly. And we'll probably go and look for Mom in a bit. When we get a chance, we'll head on around and see if we can find her. I think she's just maybe she is feeling the pressure from the hyenas, from all the predators that are around here that have figured out that this is where she is and she has got to kill. So maybe it's a clever move, dragging the kill away, putting it in another tree or putting it on the ground. I think we underestimate the intelligence level of a lot of these animals and what they do to survive out here. There's no rules. You just do what you got to do. Not like in the world that we live in where it's governed by rules. Nature is really fascinating. I think that's why safari guides get so hooked, is because every day is so different. Some days are the same, but... Now, Snazzy, you definitely do get used to it, and I'm not going to lie, I've taken my job for granted sometimes of being able to spend it out in the wilderness every single day. But it's moments like these, to see a leopardess and her two cubs that at such a young age, I cannot tell you how special it is. It's not something that you see all the time. Obviously in the Sabi Sand, the private game reserve, you see it fairly often because the leopards in that area have been habituated like no others have been, and you get to see them all the time. But an area like Pridelands, that's still an up-and-coming wilderness area, and I mean, there's all the wildlife is here. It just takes them a bit of time to get used to us. So there are so many leopards, but I feel special. This is now only the second leopard that I've had proper sighting with. No, I lie. Third leopard I've had a proper sighting with. We had that beautiful male, Shimungwe, that we were talking about. And then on 2 Saturdays ago, we had that young male leopard who was pinned up in the tree. The lions put him up there. And now, of course, the Pixie Pans female and her 2 cubs. And I've been here for over a month. Now, if I was in the Sabi Sand, I would have seen about 4 or 5 different individuals and a couple of times a week by now. So it is really, really awesome. But they do different things. They don't always do the same thing. They definitely have a routine. There's a bit of a breeze that's starting to blow now. Right, we're going to scour around for the female to see where she's stashed that Dacre kill. And hopefully she hasn't gone too far.
Welcome back, everyone. We've come up to another high point in these plains to use our binoculars to scan, see if we can see any sign of these cheetah that we're searching for, or even just to see maybe some unusual behavior from some of the prey species that they'd be looking for. So either zebra staring at something, alarm calling, or impala alarm calling, or giraffe staring. And we haven't had any luck just yet. But what we have found, whilst driving around in these kind of open areas up on the tops of the hills where there's often little rocky outcrops, it's quite an interesting little tree. And this is obviously not a very big example, it looks more like a shrub, but this is called a weeping resin tree. And it's got quite a characteristic leaf, which I'll bring a little bit closer to show you. It's got lots of these little ribs. Look at that, quite distinctive looking. And then if you look on the underside, it's much paler on the underside, obviously with the leaf facing upwards towards sunlight. The green pigment of the plant being the chlorophyll that the plant uses for photosynthesis to help make its food. There's no need for it to produce that on the underside because that's never going to face the sunlight. But what's really cool about this is if you break off a leaf and you crush it up, oh, my fingers are so cold, and you smell it, it's got the most amazing fresh fragrance of a gin and tonic. It smells like tonic water with some lemon in it. And yeah, so very pleasant smelling. It also, although these leaves now during the winter time, it's not easy to see, but if you look carefully there, you can just start to see some sap that's starting to ooze out of the little stem from where I broke the leaf off. And that smells almost like camphor. And what the local people will use this for is that you can use it almost like a decongestant. So if you rub some on your chest, often in the winter time, wherever you are in the world, viruses go around, we get colds, we get flu. And so the sap from this rubbed on the chest is said to act as like a decongestant to help you breathe easier if you're not feeling so well. Hopefully we're not going to need to use any of that anytime soon, but we're going to carry on and head out into the plains and keep on checking, keep on looking for any tracks and signs of these cheetah, and hopefully we'll find lots more amazing things to show you as we go. I've seen some giraffe out in the distance. I think we might head in that direction. Miva, you're asking if we can eat the leaves. Miva, I have not come across any traditional uses that say that you can eat the leaves. As far as I know, the only use is that sap that you can rub on your chest. But I don't think, even though it smells nice, often out here in the bush, things that smell nice don't necessarily taste nice. This beautiful morning light, look at the golden light coming through the grass here. And still looking out very carefully onto the grassy hillsides. Looking for any sign of these cheetah. And what we've been doing, stopping on the high points and then scanning, that's just what these cheetah would be doing if they were on the move, on the hunt. Yeah, so let's carry on and look for, we're going to go try and find another high spot to scan from. And hopefully we'll have more awesome things to show you from there.
I like your thinking, Damon. Act and think like a cheetah, and I'll find the cheetah. Well, good luck to you. So we've managed to do a quick reposition. We didn't actually have to move too far from where we were. And we've got the Pixie Pan female now lying up in the tall grass, feasting on the last of the duiker. This will be the end of it. You can see it looks like she's actually feeding around quite close to the head now. And that's when you know you're really at ends meet. There isn't much flesh that you'll find on the face of a duiker. They're very small, petite antelope. Maybe not petite. Steenbok are petite. Duiker are a little bit more on the heavy set side of things. So I suppose a more substantial meal than a little steenbok. But these antelope, I think, are the ones that fall victim to leopards a fair amount at this time of the year. They're so exposed as the vegetation starts to fade to brown and it gets shorter and shorter, and there really isn't anything for them to hide underneath. It's like in summer, you hardly see those two antelope species because the grass is so tall, it's green, the trees are lush and filled with leaves, and you can't really see them. So now we just watch him munch away. Still looking around every now and then. Got to be cautious. You can't be too relaxed out here. Can't be blasé like the elephants and, just have siestas all over, especially when there's young cubs and a meal at stake. I do just need to let everybody know that the sighting is currently a full lock. Let me just put sorry, we haven't got a radio system just yet. Sorry, let me just do that. Apologies for me going quiet. I just need to tell them. Okay, maybe they're just bypassing. I hope. But unfortunately, there's already 2 vehicles here. There you go, you can see her. Ha! Young lass. Enjoying that meal. She did have a big belly. I'm sure you saw when she came down the tree. She was munching away, and all of them have had a sufficient amount to eat. It would be really great if we can catch them going towards Leopard Dam to have a drink. But I think she takes and she moves these cubs around during the middle of the day, so it might be a bit difficult for us to see something like that, just because we're not live then. Ah, right. So it seems as though you're going to have a change of scenery. You're going to go back across to the Sabi St. James, and he's not driving around, but he's on foot.
Hello. We have come to do a flower segment here. A flower that we recently learned had been renamed, courtesy of our great internet botanist, Judy H. And this is Polydora poscina. Polydora poscina. Now, it is appropriate at this juncture, as we examine Polydora poscina for signs of other kinds of life, for me to mention that it is the birthday of a very famous South African treasure called Keith Kirsten today. And Keith, I hope, is watching it. He's 70 years old today. Sorry about that, Keith. And he is a master of gardens and flowers in South Africa and probably worldwide. So happy birthday, Keith. Now, Polydora poscina is normally purple when it has not gone to seed, but this one has gone to seed, and it has sent its seeds out on the wind. And I always find at this time of the year that I feel nostalgic, I suppose, thinking of all that this flower has given, or this plant has given, because it is now dead. It is an annual plant, and it is going to wither away and be no more, but its seeds, and therefore its genetic legacy, will live on in the seeds. And we were discussing yesterday animals that have a really rough time during the course of the winter. And I said, you know, there are quite a few animals that just actually don't make it through the winter. They survive as eggs, or sometimes as midlife forms. So something like a dung beetle will survive perhaps as a grub, but not as an adult. And there are many, many plants that survive tough times by just either being dormant or by dying and surviving through their offspring. And so Polydora poscina is one of those things. And that is all I have to say about Polydora poscina. We have come onto the eastern boundary of Djuma now. I was hoping to find some sign of Tundi the leopardess. As yet I have not done so, but we'll drive to the bottom and come up and do another loop around here and see what else there might be. There was some very relaxed looking impala, so nothing really in the offing at the moment. Also there's tracks of a herd of buffalo, so maybe we'll bump into them too. Right, like I said, it's a relatively warm morning. That's not to say that my chicken legs won't get slightly chilly, so I'll put my blankie back on and we'll continue. Not a lot of flowers at the moment. It does. Linda, you say the plant sounds like a Harry Potter skull or story. Yeah, no, it does. I think it's a really nice name. It used to be known as Vernonia, and then Judy H. discovered that it had changed, and it is now Polydora poscina. Let's just stop here, BK. There's some whoop whoop sitting on the top of that tree, having a fight or a play. If I could fly, I'd definitely play a lot. BK, we appear to be looking through a thick Scotch mist at this stage. BK? There we are. We're just wiping the lens, everybody. There it is. Now we have got hoopoes in glorious technicolor. Now, if you listen carefully, can you hear them going at each other? Huh. That was quite nice. Normally, of course, their call is that very distinctive onomatopoeic whoop whoop. Whoop whoop. Whoop whoop. But there they were having a fight, and so it was a sort of rasping call, but a very gentle one.
So here we sit still with the Bixie Pan female. You might actually even be able to hear her gnawing away on the leftovers of the leopard, not of the leopard carcass, sorry, of the dagger carcass. That would be frightening. No, she's not crunching particularly loudly, I'm afraid. Sorry about that. I thought it was quite a nice sound. So she might be just trying to actually crunch through the skull and get to the brain, the eyes, I'm sure, all those delicious parts. I don't know what her favorite piece of a dacre is, but yesterday, like I was telling you about the habituation process and how important it is that we have vehicles around her so she gets used to them, but of course being respectful and giving her space and not being too intrusive. She did go on a bit of a wander about towards Leopard Dam, so we do know that she likes to move around during the middle of the day, which is really not uncommon. That's actually very typical of leopards to do that when they have got young cubs, is to move during the non-peak hours. You know, for other cats, when it's hot, when they're probably just resting up fast asleep, she'll feel a little bit safer to move them around. And it sounded like, from what I could gather from the updates that we were getting, that she even tried to catch an impala ram at some point. So around Leopard Dam during the middle of the day, lots of zebra, lots of impala, often buffalo just wallowing about. And even though she did have a kill, she was quite happy to try and catch something else, but wasn't successful. Which is a pity, because it would have been great if she caught another impala, stashed it up in a tree. It would just mean that we'd have her for a few more days. Tad, who's only 5 years old, you've asked about if leopards are endangered. Yes, leopards are definitely threatened, and unfortunately there aren't as many as there used to be for a number of different reasons, and it is very sad. So we need to make sure that we protect all the leopards that we have. But Tad, we're really lucky in this area to have so many wandering around in this greater Kruger area, and they're protected in the national parks, and hopefully the surrounding areas too. But yeah, all over the world, you know, you get different types of leopards. You get snow leopards. You obviously get you get a subspecies of leopard up in India and Sri Lanka. I could go on and list them all, but each one of them is a very, very special species and unique to the area that they're living in. And Tad, it's quite sad that people want to kill leopards because of their skins. All these animals that have got the beautiful prints on them, everybody wants them. So we need to just make sure. There's lots of fake types of leopard print and all the different types of animals that we can use instead. I think that their coats belong on them and not on anybody else. I just think it's amazing that I get to sit here and have a leopard 20, 30 meters away from us, just quite happily feeding in the grass. That's pretty epic. Now, leopards are not my favorite of the cats. I'm quite biased when it comes to lions. I was hoping that they would be close by so that we could have a sighting of them too, but not today. Maybe they've just moved a little bit further north. They've been quiet. But I do appreciate seeing leopards and spending time with them, especially when there are young leopards around, because then they're very entertaining. Then they're, quite playful. So at some point I will turn around and we'll go back to see what that cub is doing, if he or she is still up in the tree. I'm not sure which one it is, but we do know that there is one female cub. But there's not much left, and I think that she'll be done soon enough, and then she might go around and try and round up her cubs. But off we go across to James, who's got an antelope that this leopard would be lucky enough to catch.
Leopards are not her favourite cats. Good heavens, never heard such a thing, such a slight on leopard kind. Right, we've got not a leopard here, but a waterbuck, and what he is doing is posing, backlit, his coat shining golden silver as the recently risen sun shines upon his long grey coat. He looks very regal indeed. I am told that the kids' show is now finished, so if the rest of you would like to send through your questions and comments, you can do so using the hashtag Safari Live on the tweet. Alternatively, you can use the chat stream on YouTube. He is regally chewing his cud. I always think that they look like heavies, you know, standing on a street corner chewing gum, looking out for trouble. It's only waterbuck that give me that impression, none of the other antelope. No, he looks quite surprised by something. What has he seen? Well, Anushka, it does look like he's up to no good. That's exactly what I was saying. He looks like he might be the head of a gang, or maybe the bouncer at a nightclub. Quite an effective bouncer, I think. I'm not sure how many of you know this, but when you watch one of those beautiful wildlife documentaries that the BBC makes, or Nat Geo, any number of others, most of the sound that you hear, most of the natural sounds, are not actually recorded in the field. They're added afterwards in post-production, and that's called Foley. That sound is known as Foley. And you can imagine trying to add Foley to this. We won't do it too much because the sound of people chewing is normally offensive. But when you hear the footfalls of animals, or animals chewing or tearing grass out or doing that sort of thing, it's normally added afterwards. Nancy, you say if he blows a bubble now, you'll be shocked. None more so than I. I too shall be shocked if a great big pink bubble comes out of his mouth and goes. What you can hear there is the sound of the arrow-marked babbler. Well, a few arrow-marked babblers, and they are babbling at each other. It's a much more cheerful dawn chorus than there was yesterday. A couple of white-browed scrub robins, some waxbills. Alrighty, let's head about, I'm going to say 2,000 kilometres off to the west, where Dylan is in the Kalahari waiting to say hello.
Good morning, everyone. It's great to see you all again. Good having you with us. And it's another absolute hard graft, and my name's Dylan. I'm just out here to enjoy this as much as everyone else is, and it's just wonderful having you with. What we've done again this morning, and there's a very good reason for that, is we're just spending time with the meerkats again, because we know she's had these little pups, and we really don't want to miss that opportunity of seeing them when they come out for the first time. I'm guessing that's probably still a week away, give or take a couple of days. But if we can be with them when they bring them out for the first time, it is going to be just the most incredible sighting. I've also brought something with that I'm going to show you a little bit later when we come back, and that's going to be quite interesting. But yeah, so here's the meerkat burrows over here. Remember, this group is called the Rock Stars. And Jandra and I are going to take bets again this morning on which burrow they're going to come up, but we haven't settled on that yet. We will see shortly. And whenever we get here in the mornings, we also just do like a quick scan around the burrows, not very close in. We'll stay like 10, 15 yards away for any signs of other animal activity. And the one that we're particularly concerned about that we know is moving in these areas is the honey badger. I'm very jealous. A long-standing friend of mine that's actually been coming here as a guest to Swallow for many, many years sent me the most incredible footage last night of European badgers that are just like mind-blowing. They've got this lovely little set near their home. So yeah, I've got a real soft spot for badgers, and I know those aren't, closely related to ours, but nonetheless, any badger's a good badger. Yeah, these burrows are. I see there's been a bit of collapse over here. This isn't a burrow that they've actually been using, this particular one, but there has been a bit of collapse over here. You see, I love this. Ruby has just asked, can we show you armored ground crickets again today? And I would be the happiest person on the planet if I can, and we will. Jandra is actually quite good at finding these things. I don't know if he's eating them out or something, but I will carry on trying to find one for you, and we will see if we can get one for you. Yeah, so in the meantime, enjoy your safari, and we'll see if we can find an armored ground cricket.
Dylan, I also want to see almond ground crickets. That's not a thing. They sound delicious. If there is such a thing as an almond ground cricket, I'd like to eat them. No, I would like to see the almond ground crickets too. I'm so sorry. I'm malfunctioning this morning. Anyways, right, let's try that again. We're still with the leopard. We switched positions. We turn the vehicle around so that if anything does exciting happen, like the other cub returns, then we'll be able to see mom and the little ones. But it does sound like there is some chatter coming from the grass just to the east of us. So perhaps yesterday, you may remember, we had I think it was the last sighting we actually had of the leopards. There was one little cub, and they said that it was an adventurer, and it was moving around, and it was wandering quite far away from mom. So it sounds like last night I was getting an update. The hyenas moved on in, and that little cub just climbed up into a comifera tree, so a corkwood, and just sat there, but far away from everybody else. So that's going to be that one's personality, not wanting to stick at home. Gert, can I draw your attention away from the leopard for 2 seconds? I don't know if you can see it, but I haven't got any armored or almond ground crickets, but I've got something else. Sorry, all these things happen. Can you see it on there on the screen? I'm going to show you. It's going to be Inception because you're going to watch me. Look at what's just sitting right up on top of the monitor. There we go. It is a grasshopper of sorts. It's definitely still a nymph. You can see it hasn't got its wings just yet, so it's still got to do some shedding of the skin. So not an armored ground cricket, but some kind of a grasshopper that has found its way into the vehicle. Really big eyes. And very powerful legs as well. Please don't jump into my face, because I might let out a little squeal. Oh no, it's moving. It looks like it's getting ready. Oh no, I can just see its little mandible moving. I'd like to see one of these under a microscope. I'd like to look at their faces. Why didn't we do that when we used to have the tent and the microscope? That was so cool. So I think that up close, their mouth parts must look quite terrifying. But very cold, not moving much. Leaping lizard, yes, this is rather small. I would like to do a size comparison, so I'm going to put my fingers in frame. Look, those are the tips of my fingers, and that is how small this creature is. Oh, sorry, I don't mean to disturb you as you wash your feet. They're such bizarre things. I like insects a lot. I think they might be my favorite thing. Caterpillars are by far my favorite. I think I get more excited about caterpillars than I do with a little leopard cup, because I just think that they're adorable, especially ones with fake eyes. And the chunkier the chunkier the caterpillar, the better. What are you doing? This is cleaning all its feet.
Sorry about that small technical train smash. We'll get those other people back as soon as we can. We are now heading towards the northern parts of the reserve, towards a waterhole called Buffelshoek. And this is where we last had, or where there were last reports of Tundi. A chap from Cheetah Plains followed her in here yesterday morning, just after we'd had her. Anyway, I haven't seen any tracks around, but we'll keep having a squiz. See what else we can find. I have some plant of great interest. Or, if we're very lucky, an insect that is surviving the winter. Very few of those. I meant to ask, those of you who are living in North America, I believe this is a year in which those cicadas come out, the ones that spend 17 years under the ground. Is my A, belief correct, and B, has this event occurred? Because it's something I'd really love to see. So those of you who are in North America, as the summer takes hold, can you tell me if that has happened? They are probably my favourite insects, cicadas, because they remind me of summer. And who doesn't like summer? Thank you, Kim. You say it has happened. That's wonderful. That's great. Quite remarkable. For those of you who don't know, cicadas, most of them spend at least a year under the ground as instars. And others spend up to 17 years underground as instars before they become adults and come out. Linda Poehler, you're in Maine, and you say they haven't come out just yet. So they haven't come out everywhere in the US. That's cool. Thank you, Linda. There has been a herd of buffalo knocking around here. Their dung is ubiquitous on this road. And it's always quite satisfying when the tyres hit a pile of dung. It's a very satisfying squelching sound. Try to avoid doing it in summer, though, because there are many beetles and things in the dung. Let's see if we can investigate some. Shadow, I'm not going to repeat the profanity you expressed in your description of how loud the cicadas are at the moment. Yeah, they're not for everybody. Let's just make sure there isn't a buffalo around here. Right, here's a good patty. Let's see what's in it. I'm not going to use my fingers if it's all the same to you. Now, in summer, you'd expect to find termites, flies, beetles, and all sorts of other things. But in winter, it's just a mush. Now, although it's just a mush, we must remember that there will be millions of bacteria in the patty, because those bacteria have helped to digest the plant material that the buffalo ate. And so, although there's not a lot of animal life in it, in fact there's no animal life in that particular one, there are certainly bacteria living in it. If we had a very powerful microscope, we might be able to see them. But I'm not sure that anybody has ever said, may I go on safari because I'd like to see some bacteria. Imagine going into a travel agent and saying, I'd love to go on safari. Oh, that's wonderful. Where would you like to go? Anywhere where I can see a great collection of migrating bacteria. Good. Something that I'm extremely jealous of at the moment is the meerkats.
So we have our first one up now. This is the little alpha. It's considerably cooler this morning than it was yesterday. So she'll actually sit huddled over every now and again, kind of like hunched forward just because of the temperature. But she's also going to be wanting to move into the sun. Seems like she's the first one up every morning so far that we've seen. And I think she'll also, because she's suckling the little ones, that she'll have a lot more pressure on her in terms of getting forage in the mornings. Again, that constant vigilance, just looking around the entire time. No, it's magnificent. For those of you out there who enjoy your photography, this backlighting is always a winner. It's always a winner. It's not quite backlit on it yet, but it's getting there. And we've got another one that's just popped up midway, or not even midway, probably 2 yards closer towards us. Lovely to see how dark their eyes are and how dark the fur around their eyes are. That little sengi that we saw yesterday, that it was just like such an amazing sighting for me. Wow. But if you go back and have a look at that footage, you'll notice, you'll notice the lovely white circle around that sengi's eyes. So those sengis are actually active by day and by night. So they're not just diurnal animals. They'll be out foraging at night as well for little insects and fallen fruits. So you probably find that white ring, apart from being a visual recognition to other sengis there, it probably helps with their night vision a little bit. Whereas these guys having this dark fur, it's almost like sunglasses. So Veronica has just asked a really cool ecological question about the meerkats, saying, isn't it a little bit cold to actually be having pups at this time of the year? In terms of the meerkats, they do lose body heat very, very fast. It's not the ideal time of year to be having pups, but they are super reliant on... one of our other guys, colleagues has got a super sighting. Head over there and we'll be right back here.
We have, but it has just sort of paused for a moment. There we go. So this is the little one that's been up in the marula tree. Now, it keeps staring down on the floor, so we have a suspicion that maybe the other cub has come around, the wanderer. I think this, it's hard to say. I think this is the little girl, though, this female. There might even be 2 female cubs, but it would be nice to get a good view of them to be able to confirm. And I'm going to sit today, well, actually, next time you head away from us, I'll have a look and see if I can't pick out some nice ID features on both of the cubs, because I think we've seen both of them now. And yeah, I don't know, I'm just very excited about this whole thing. But now it's paused for a minute on the marula tree. You can also see the corkwood that is just sort of blocking its view. Sorry, we're not going to move around too much. Not that the cubs mind us moving around. I just think it's a nice spot that we're in because we have a view of Mom eating, but she's hiding away now. And then, of course, this little cub. And if anything is going to happen, the cubs will probably come in this direction back towards where Mom is. So I think this is a good spot. Not coming all the way down the tree, though. Quite happy to be up there. Good thinking. Yes, James, I will 100% give you the spot pattern of the Pixie Pan female, because I'm going to zoom into a picture right now and have a look. Spot pattern. Almost identical. Sort of the outer spots are quite big and bold, and then she has got the two sort of lighter spots closer towards her nose, so it looks like a 2-2. Spot pattern, and then she's obviously got that quite nice unique marking above her left eye, but we'll have a look at that in a second. Very cool. This is very nice though, and then I will do the same thing with the other cubs. I'll jot them on down and we can add them. I'm very excited though to be able to sit and create some little ID cards. Thankfully though, a fellow by the name of Ryan Thompson has been helping out, and I was telling you yesterday, he spent a fair amount of time and has got some ID cards on the leopards in this area, but he spends more time on Jajani than anything. So we might not see all of those leopards. We could see them occasionally as they pass on through. You've all seen how territories can change over time, and depending on the season, they might get bigger or they might stay more concentrated in an area, depending on food availability. Of course, that's the most important thing. And then, of course, water sources. So we'll have a look at that. Something that is proving to be quite difficult, as I don't quite seem to have the knack for IDing hyenas like Jamie Patterson did. Some of you might remember her from a little while back. She was one of the Wild Earth presenters too, and she was particularly fond of hyenas and just had an incredible understanding for them, and then also an eye for them. So it's going to take me a bit of time to connect the dots with the hyenas and going over them. I would imagine it'll take me a fair few hours, but I'm going to try and get everything printed out, and then that way, instead of doing it digitally, I can actually just have it on a bit of paper and circle and colour in certain things. I'm going to have to colour coordinate everything because I have the attention span of a 3-year-old. So that will be a fun time. It'll be like building a puzzle. Little leopard, what are you doing? Are you cleaning your paws, or are you just having a bit of a sleep? You can see how the behavior has changed now, how obviously this young cub has settled down a fair amount. It's not looking so anxious and staring into the grass. Megan, I didn't say anything about an Excel spreadsheet because I don't even know how to open Excel. I am completely illiterate when it comes to anything to do with technology. It's a disaster, in fact. It's just the thought sends shivers down my spine. So it'll be very basic, old school, is probably stuck in my notebook. So actually I'll do that. I'll print everything out and I'll stick them in my notebook so that I can show all of you. How about that? I do typically do things like that, but like maps of areas. I have random things. I have lots of notebooks as well. But there we go. That'll be my little project for my week off, in between tanning by the pool. No, well, fingers crossed for nice warm weather. But right, enough about that chatter and more about the leopards. Fingers crossed the next time you come back to us, we'll have 2 cubs up in a marula tree.
Okay, I think they all, if she doesn't stop, they're all gonna cross the road. Oh yeah.
I'll give a message to Barney. Sorry, just confirm that you actually see the leopard north of Sable.
Cool. We just found this beautiful head of elephant in both sides of the road, some crossing in front of us. Young bull having a look at us. Slowly moving across. Amazing thing there, how big that elephant is, but how quietly it's moving across the road. If you close your eyes, you wouldn't even hear that there is something this big going across. See the difference in ears now, because it's still early hours of the morning when it's very cool. They're not just flapping as much as they'll do sort of midday today when they're getting hot. So they are also trying to keep warm, not flapping the ears, just walking around quietly. Early bumps are quite a thing to see, and you can see how big that bump is. It's the type of picture you want and print and put behind your toilet door and say the end of Africa. It's amazing now we're sitting with elephants, more than 10 elephants here, but we can hardly see because the bush is nice and green and lush. And you're not really hearing much. What we're gonna do, we'll try and drive slightly forward and see if we get a better cab. Majority of them have moved across to the right now. So we'll see if we get another good angle for you in the next few minutes. So now the elephant tusk starts showing anything from the age of 2.5 close to 3 years. But after that, it doesn't have to go according to age, looking at the size of the tusk. That is strictly genetic. But so some elephants will genetically have much more bigger tusk, but they start showing even if they're going to be too big, somewhere between 2.5 to 3. I'll try and reposition quickly. So we're gonna move forward slightly, see if we get a better gap, and we'll be back shortly with much more better view, we hope.
Yes, upper tree, inner tree, two quite interesting species. There is a ground hornbill, which is a distant cousin of the grey hornbill, which is in the tree to the right of the ground hornbill. Now, the ground hornbill has been attracted to this area because it was burned yesterday, and it was burned yesterday in lieu of making a fire break. And that fire would most likely have resulted in the death of, well, a few ground-dwelling species, perhaps the odd tortoise, maybe. It doesn't look like it was a hot fire. Maybe the odd ground-dwelling rodent. It might also have unearthed a couple of insect grubs and that sort of thing. Anyway, that's why the ground hornbill is here. And unusually, he seems to be on his own. Cleaning and sharpening his beak. And lovely sounds of the magpie shrike in the background. Psst, psst, psst. Critter Freak, you say you love how huge these birds are. They are massive, aren't they? They're about the size of a turkey. A lot more fearsome than a turkey. There are another two BK that are just patrolling along the ground there, which is, of course, not surprising given their name. ground hornbills. Now let's see if we can find one catching something to eat. Is it 3 of them or 2 of them? 3. 3 on the ground there, and 1 in the tree. That's a kind of standard-sized flock. I did see 5 the other day in a flock. Such a lovely sound. Mohammed, that's an interesting question. In this particular part of the world, the human-wildlife conflict is caused almost entirely by human beings. So we live in a reserve that is fenced, and so when animals and human beings come into contact, it's normally because there are poachers or hunters in the area. And birds like this are sometimes killed for traditional medicine, and they are an endangered species, but that's not why they're endangered. Well, it's contributed, but it's not the major reason. It's an indirect conflict that's resulted in these birds being endangered. They're endangered because they need massive tree holes to breed in, and outside of protected areas, big trees have been chopped down in most areas, and so it's very difficult for them to find nesting sites. You can hear a pearl-spotted owl there. And birds that do come into conflict with local people here are vultures, especially. Vultures are poached extensively for muti or for use. In other parts of Africa, Kenya is a great example. The Masai Mara National Reserve is a great example. You've got a situation where there is no fence, so the reserve bleeds into a buffer zone or into human communities. And there can be quite a lot of conflict, especially where crops are growing and where elephants exist and baboons exist in close proximity to human beings. Then you do have conflict, and that's where this human-wildlife conflict story is being told and is unfolding in many parts of Africa. And it's a very tricky one, because the people who are losing their crops to elephants are very poor. They're subsistence farmers. It's not like they're making a lot of money. And an elephant in a single night can wipe out a family's food source. And so with burgeoning populations in a lot of these areas, the human-wildlife conflict continues to be a major problem in a lot of protected areas. And then you get other situations, like a situation in the Masai Mara where there aren't a great number of pastoralists. People don't grow, at least there aren't a great number of agriculturalists. People don't grow a huge amount. It's mainly pastoralists tending cattle. And as long as there isn't competition for grazing for their cattle, humans and wildlife get on with each other perfectly acceptably. It's only when there's a drought and there's no grass that wildlife then comes into conflict with those human beings. So it's different everywhere. I don't know, Anushka. I mean, I think they're increasing. How well they're increasing, I don't know. You know, it's been a while since I chatted to anybody from the Ground Hornbill Project. A while back, just when I'd started guiding, there was a mad Israeli ex-Mossad agent called Yuval, I think his name was Yuval, who was very involved with the Grand Hornbill project, and he was very passionate about it, and he's very passionate about a number of other things which I shan't mention now. And so I got to know the Grand Hornbill project, and they do some spectacular stuff where they'll go and remove the second chick out of a nest, because only one chick in a clutch of 2 will survive, and they'll go and place it in a nesting box and rear it. And they also put up other nesting boxes, and they won't take the chick and put it in a nesting box. They'll go and hatch it and then rear it by hand and try and introduce it to another wild flock. And then they put up big nesting boxes all over the place so that these birds would have more nesting sites. I think they have had relative success. I don't think that it's been a roaring success. You know, in the 20-odd years that I've been in and around this area, the status of these birds has not changed from endangered to least threatened. But I do think that their numbers have increased to a certain extent. And obviously, you know, these research projects take a lot of time to develop and refine and try definite, you know, it just takes a long time for them to refine the techniques to make them work. Good. Here's some buffalo. We actually saw some buffalo a little bit earlier, but I didn't hear the ones you'll see now.
Yes, we do. We have a relatively small herd of buffalo that we found grazing up here on this hillside. And have a close look at their backs, everybody. Look at the fur. I think the ones that have got their backs or their sides of their body kind of standing in such a way that you can see their sides illuminated in the sunlight. Look at that hair and how it's all standing straight up on end. Now, I'm sure we've all felt that feeling of getting out of a hot shower into a cold room, and we've had that feeling of goosebumps, all of your hairs stand up on end. That's pretty much what's happening here. These buffalo, their hairs all standing up to help trap the air on this chilly morning, help to keep them nice and warm. And have a look at the ones on the left. It looks like some of them have started to feed, putting their heads down into the grass, gathering up what's left of the greenery. Coming into winter, the grass is drying up, and big animals like these buffalo, because of the way they digest food, being ruminants, and that whole process, while it's very advantageous in that they don't have to spend as much time eating because they're able to digest their food a bit more thoroughly, it does mean that they do need to make sure that all the grass that they eat is of the best quality possible. And so just looking around us here, looking at the different grass species, there's a lot of really nutritious, high quality grasses in this area, and that's precisely why these buffalo are here, to feed on all this lovely grass. There's Waikisha, you're saying these are very large buffalo, especially considering that they just eat grass. Waikisha, they are very large. And I suppose, yeah, it is quite strange to think that animals get so big by eating nothing but vegetation. But think about things like hippos and rhinos and elephants, and of course these buffalo. All of those animals are herbivorous. And it's actually the vegetation that helps them to get that big. There's a constant or relatively constant supply of it. For a predator, obviously securing food is much more difficult. So for a lion to get lots of food, it's much more difficult than it is for a buffalo to get food. One of the reasons why, on land at least, the predators don't get as big as herbivores. But here's one of the little grass species that's growing in the area. And this is one of those very nutritious species. So have a look here. This is obviously now dead, but when this would have been fresh in summer, there would have been lots of little seeds, little round balls growing on all these little offshoots here from the main stem. And that's one of the easy ways to tell that this is one of the panicum species of grass. This particular one being Panicum maximum, or white buffalo grass. Very apt that we should have buffalo feeding on white buffalo grass. We're going to watch these buffalo continue feeding for a bit longer, and we're going to keep scanning in our mission to find you these cheetah this morning.
So Mom is officially done with the Jacob carcass. She licks her paws clean. She'll probably wipe her face with them afterwards. A few go-away birds whining about the fact that there are some spotted cats here. You know, just the usual Wednesday morning here at Pridelands. So our leopardess has been chuffing and calling for the cubs to come back. You can see her staring into the distance. And one of them had made its way down to the ground. You can hear her now. I'm going to sit quietly for a bit. Here they come. Right, just off to the right. One of the cubs is, I don't know if it's the same one, but it's just sort of somewhere here. Sorry, I'm trying to see if I'm pointing at the right thing. It was just moving through the grass. It was very difficult to tell. I'm not sure if that's the one that's... Oh, there we go. Can you see it? There they are. Yay! Both of them are alive. The other one is just to the left. So you've got both of them in frame. Hello, naughty little cubs. Where have you been? And why have you been giving us an absolute heart attack? So they're responding to Mom. But look how cautious they're also being. They're just running off to the left. They're going quite quickly now. They're very excited to meet up with Mom. Hopefully we'll have a nice view. They're still going. You can just sort of see the grass moving, but slinking nice and low as to not sort of show themselves too much. Oh, they're so small. Off they go. Here we go. Happily reunited with Mom. Hello, Mom. And I'm sure she is also relieved. Yes, and I'm sure everybody that is watching is probably relieved too, because we were a little bit stressed. But I think we must just remember that there is one cub that has the tendency to venture off. And I think that that's going to be the case all the time. You always have one that doesn't listen. Okay, Mum is now moving back towards the carcass. But I don't think that there's much left. We'll see now. So the carcass was just over there. I'm sure the little cubs will go and maybe munch on it. Yes, that's exactly what they're doing. It's probably going to be difficult for us to see, though, because they're not super tall. It's hard to see them over the top of the grass. Racing off. There they go. Ah, amazing. Well, definitely need to do some repositioning to find where the leopards are going. But let's, fingers crossed, that they go to the dam and have a nice drink.
We've got a jackal, which is really, really exciting for this area in Djuma. Now, I can't see if it's a blackback or a side stripe from here. I'm a little bit blinded by the sun, but it's a canid. It's in the Canidae family with 34 species currently. Looks very dog-like from here, dog and wolf-like. In the same family as the African wild dog and the Ethiopian wolf. I think it's possible.
Sorry about that, everybody, but you're back with me, and we're about to see these leopards and the cubs out on the road. So get ready to take those screenshots, hashtag Wild Earth, all the things, pretty please. I'm so excited. I might not be able to resist taking one picture. Can you see her there, Kat? Seems as though there's an aircraft of some sort flying around as well. You might be able to hear some interesting noises. So if she does pop out onto the road, I'm 100% going to take 1 or 2 pictures so that I can use them for ID reference. So I'm apologizing. Sorry, not sorry. But it has to be done for science, is what I will be claiming this morning. But she's on her way to a nice open road, and we haven't had them out in the open just yet. Here's a little one, whining. It's a very high-pitched sound that they're making. It might be quite difficult to hear from this distance. Hello, little one, creeping out into the open. They're very sweet. So they might be a little bit older now that we get to see them on the ground. Maybe just over 4 months or so. Somewhere around there. I wanted to show you a picture, actually. But maybe I'll share it a little bit later. Of these two when they were very small. This was a picture taken at the end of April. And they were tiny. They were still very little. But I suppose they grow up so quickly. But we're not sure of an exact date of when they were born. Please come out onto the road, leopard. No, you're going opposite direction. Okay, I'm going to have to just reposition. I'm going to stick on the road. And we'll just try and get a view of her from sort of parallel. She's walking parallel with the road at the moment. So the ridge that she normally lives on is just behind us. Not very far, again, a couple of 100 meters. Kat has given me the hand signal that says, oh, they're coming to the road, Kat. Oh no, the antenna. Please pop out, little leopards. There she comes. There she is. Okay, we're waiting for this moment now. Run across the open. And I'm probably going very out of focus. Last one, galloping. Off they go. It's now become a race. Okay, we're going to carry on. We're going to follow her. She's just taking shortcuts, but I just need to keep an eye on her. We're not going to go very fast. I'm actually still in low range in the vehicle. So when you go off-road, it's really good to just put the car into low range. So we're just going to cruise very slowly, as quietly as we can. The nice thing is that we're not going to be driving over any branches or making any cracking sounds. So they just went off here to the right. Okay. I'm going to try and get ahead of them and watch them bound towards us, but off you go across to Tswalu, where Dylan is baking in the sun, waiting for his meerkat friends.
So, this is quite interesting, and just bear with me a little bit. We were talking about those elephant shoes that we saw yesterday, the bushveld elephant shoe. And remember, I made a reference to the ones you get down in that Pinda area called the four-toed elephant shoe, or sengis, as the kind of the biologists are referring to them now. The common name is a sengi. The reason is that shoes are strictly insectivorous. And so they kind of moved away to say sengis because they're omnivorous. They'll eat plant matter as well. But my reference there about the four-toed elephant shoe, and this is where it gets interesting. They occur in that area, then up in Angola, and then they're actually the most widespread in Africa. But these ones down here are actually endangered, to the best of my knowledge. But what is amazing, there's actually petroglyphs in the Karoo that experts have said, well, these are probably elephant shoes, sengis, four-toed. And have a look at this. So this is a wonderful book called My Heart Stands on the Hill by Jeanette Deacon and Craig Foster. I'm not going to go into that a lot, but it's a great book, very, very interesting. But inside here, they've got these amazing images that resemble shrews. There's a picture of the shrew there, and there's a very, very close resemblance. Okay, now we can argue, and there's a lot of debate, well, maybe it's kind of like a morph between an elephant and a shrew kind of thing, and there's a lot of debate as to what it actually means, not just the animal. But when experts, this chap called Galen Rothman, actually had a look at it, when he was shown these by Jeanette Deacon, he was absolutely amazed. And there's a lovely little article that he's written all about it, that, you know, it just, there's a brief reference to it in this book. The thing that that stood out for him immediately was these bristles on the tail. Now, those bristles on the tail are diagnostic in many of the Sengi species. And there's some really, really good work that he's done on the purpose. In fact, from the 1960s, there's some good work that's been done on what is the purpose of these bristles on the tail. But in many of the species, they are very, very diagnostic. And when he saw this, he was actually straight away, that is exactly like a four-toed elephant shrew or Sengi, four-toed Sengi. So, this is just interesting. It's the only known example. If these are in fact Sengis, it's the only known example that we're aware of Sengis in rock art in southern Africa, in fact, anywhere. But what is really amazing about this, and you can kind of get an idea of the landscape there, it's very, very arid, almost kind of what we're in here now, but a little bit even more arid. But these animals, these four-toed elephant Sengis, are really associated with dense woodland, forest areas in many places, so a lot higher rainfall. So what on earth were these engravings doing in the Karoo? That raises questions about had the climates changed? Did they actually occur there? Or possibly, maybe even more likely, that there was transfer of knowledge between these early people, these San, moving from wetter to these drier environments, whether it was actual physical movement or just knowledge transfer between different groups. And then, well, if these are in fact engravings of Sengis, well, why did they do it? What was the significance of these animals to them? Now, those ones that get a lot larger, these four-toed elephant shrews that you get down in Phinda, get a lot larger than ours. These get to like 200 grams, thereabouts, whereas ours are like 50, 60, 70, 80 grams. So ours are a lot smaller, the one that we saw yesterday. But anyway, I'm like rambling on here, but the point that I'm making is that we know so little about the cultural significance of so many species, and very often it's like well detailed. Well, the significance of eland as a huge food item, a lot of fat, very, very important, common on the landscape, can feed a lot of people. But when you start going down into these smaller species, it becomes absolutely fascinating, and particularly when you start seeing them depicted in rock art, whether it's engravings or paintings. And over the coming days, maybe weeks, Jeandre and I have got something really, really cool we want to share with you, but I'm going to keep that under wraps a little bit. I'll give you a hint. It's going to entail a little bit of walking and PT on our part, but we'll get it right, and hopefully it'll be something that you'll really enjoy, and it'll be really, really exciting. So. But I can't give you any more than that. I don't want to spoil it, so just yet. But they've just popped out. They just started sunning themselves again, just popped out. So we're just going to spend a little bit more time here. And so in the meantime, enjoy the rest of your safari, and we'll see you again shortly.
Well, welcome back. We did have the herd of buffalo still in front of us right here, but literally as you came to us, something spooked them, and they've run up the hillside off to the right. So I'm going to try and reposition once more, just so we can try and catch a glimpse of them as they move off. Now, the wind is blowing across like this, straight into our faces, and that is the direction the buffalo have run off in. No, they have completely disappeared.
They're not playing along.
Running off up into the hill there. I was just going to say that they're moving as they are, moving into the wind, making sure that they can smell any signs of potential danger up ahead of them. Quite typical behavior for buffaloes. And this reminds me of this whole little incident reminds me of quite a fun little story. It happened a couple of months ago. We were out looking for a cheetah out in the open plains not far from here, and we found a herd of buffalo, and we were sitting there watching the buffalo, and the guest on the vehicle asked, we're looking for this cheetah, any chance that the cheetah might come and try and hunt the buffalo? And we said, no. cheetah being so small and lanky definitely isn't big enough and strong enough to take on something as large as a buffalo. And the next second we turned around and there was a cheetah on the opposite side of the road busy stalking these buffalo. And we thought, no, like, you know, she's maybe just hiding down, trying to keep out of sight of them. And the next thing, she got up and ran at full speed into the herd of buffalo and went and tried to tackle one of the small calves. And the herd immediately got to its feet and panicked, and they started to mill around trying to get to this young female cheetah. And the mother of the calf came and chased the cheetah away, and the cheetah kind of cantered off. So yeah, often in the bush strange things like that happen. Animals don't read the books that we write about them. Unfortunately, those buffalo have now completely disappeared from view. But what a magnificent scene we have behind us off into the plains there. And that's part of the reason why we've stuck here. Just because we've been able to use our binoculars and scan those hillsides really thoroughly, looking for any sign of these cheetah that we're trying to catch up with this morning. And I think that with the sun now well and truly overhead, on this chilly morning, these cheetah that we're looking for are probably going to be lying in an open area. Like we said, we saw those buffalo and how those hairs were standing up on end. If they're feeling the cold, a much smaller animal like a cheetah is probably feeling the cold too. And one of these little open clearings will make for a lovely little sunbed just to warm up in the morning light. So, and you're saying always surprising what animals do when they're hungry. Absolutely, I couldn't agree with you more. And I think one of the other things that maybe factored into that little incident was that the female cheetah was quite a young cheetah. Okay, we're gonna carry on and see if we can maybe find a nice little spot, a perfect spot for a cheetah to lie up, and hopefully find the cheetah lying in that spot for you. Hello everyone. Apparently the audio is not so good with the meerkats and Dylan over at Swalu. We apologize for that. Obviously being out here in the bush, you can never completely control what will happen in terms of technological things and signal and stuff like that. So we're gonna, as I said, we're gonna carry on searching for any sign of those cheetah. I've also just, while using my binoculars to scan into the distance, I've spotted a large group of giraffe. So I think let's head in that direction and see if we can get a little bit closer to them. And just while we're driving through these open grassy plains, like we said, these cheetah are probably going to be resting now, trying to warm up a little bit in the sun. And because they, as we've spoken about frequently, they're kind of the smallest of the large predators, the weakest of the big cats, if you will, very vulnerable to attack by things like lions and leopards. And so they're quite nervous, and often a resting cheetah will kind of sit up and scan around every now and then. And that's what I'm hoping for, is maybe coming past one of these little clearings, and just as we drive past, maybe it pops its head up and looks around. So keeping a careful lookout for that. With it being quite windy, like I said, that'll also with it being quite windy, they might also be quite additionally extra nervous. So a couple of you asking if there's any specific times of day when cheetah will be most active in terms of their hunting. Like with lions and leopards, they tend to do most of their hunting in the evenings or at night. There is. So with cheetah, as I mentioned, they're kind of at the bottom of the food chain among the large carnivores. And so often they'll hunt at times when other large carnivores won't. So during the middle of the day, for example, maybe a mother with small cubs, she'll frequently hunt during the heat of the day when lions, leopards, hyenas are not likely to trouble her. Two big males like the ones that we're looking for, there's a bit of a less chance of them getting dispossessed of their kills, and they may be a bit more kind of confident, the two of them together, and they'll often hunt in the evenings or early in the morning. But just like those, like the female with youngsters that I spoke about, they too will hunt during the middle of the day as well. We've often noticed as well this time of year, with it being so chilly, that they'll hunt in the middle of the day when it's a little bit warmer. Of course, in winter time, the temperatures don't get nearly as hot here as they do in summer, and so they're less likely to suffer any ill effects from the extreme heat. But we're going to carry on, and like I said, hopefully you see us next again, we'll have a more conclusive update on these cheetah for you.
Yeah, apologies. We just had a little glitch on our link, our communications from our side. So what happened? These meerkats, that alpha female, and that's got the pup sheep, came out, stood around, but the wind was a little bit nippy. The sun wasn't too high yet, and a second one popped out, and then they both went back down the burrows for the past 10-15 minutes, and they've just started reappearing again now. But the ones right at the back there are just kind of like still keeping a low profile, trying to stay out the wind. It's still, even now as we're standing here, it's still considerably cooler than it was yesterday at the same time. But now I think they're out for good. I don't think they'll go back down the burrows again. I'm going to be very, very interested just to see when they actually go off foraging, because by the time we left yesterday, they were still at the burrows, and so I think they're actually just getting plenty of food. I don't think food resources are at a premium at the moment. And relating to back to one of the questions that we had earlier, in terms of this time of the year for meerkats to have pups, it really is food dependent. You know, these little animals have got the ability to have pups at any time of the year. The summer months are generally accepted as being the best time to have pups, based on food availability. But if you've had decent rains, and it's triggered any of these outbreaks, and I think a lot of this is hinging on these armoured ground crickets that have been around, that could mean that they'll actually have pups late in the season, you're going into the winter months. Because we are really, we are deep into winter now, and the food resources seem to be great. So yeah, there's absolutely no reason why they shouldn't have had pups. And the fact that other group that we were initially following, the horses, had pups too. Yeah, apologies, I didn't get the name there, but the question was, what is the largest meerkat family that I've seen? Okay, Romit has asked, what is the largest meerkat family that I've seen? So on Swalu, I've seen a group of 22 meerkats. On another property or in the area, and it's probably about 70 kilometers away from Swalu, I've seen groups of over 40 meerkats. So that is really, those group sizes are very, very closely linked to habitat quality in terms of food availability. So when I say habitat quality, I'm not just talking about the availability of cover and burrows and that kind of stuff. It's really hugely dependent on food availability. So if there's tons and tons and tons of good quality food around, well, yeah, then your group sizes that the habitat can support will be considerably larger. And then you do get, and we can call it whatever we like, fate, chance, bad luck, whatever. You can get a group of 15 meerkats and they lose 4 of them to a monitor lizard that goes down a burrow and kills them, or a caracal. And if you're starting with a group of 4 meerkats like the horses, or 6 meerkats like this group, if one gets eaten, that's a huge impact on the ability of the group to be vigilant against further danger, as well as getting enough food. So there's any number of things that can happen there. But it can also work the opposite way around. I mean, you can get a group of 4 meerkats, and with 1 litter, that female can more than double the size of the group overnight, assuming they all get to adulthood, which is not always the case. So these groups are highly variable, and in these environments where there is so much pressure from things like food, from things like predators, these group sizes can be very, very, very variable. Yes, I can talk a lot about the simple question. The largest group size I've seen is 22 on Zwalu. But yes, I'm just loving this backlight. Loving this backlight. So it highlights that hair. And you can see that hair is all standing on end now. But constantly looking, Constantly looking. There were reports of cheetah in the area this morning. Veronique, our meerkat habituator, she actually called them in and said there are cheetah around. They're not too close here. They're probably about 2-3 kilometers from where we are now. But you never know. Have legs, will travel. So they could even rock up in this area. So we're just kind of keeping our eyes open. This meerkat burrow is beautifully located. It gives us a really good 360-degree view, a long way in any direction. There's some little bit of more burrow maintenance going on here. So we're going to just spend a little bit more time here and see what they get up to.
We are definitely warmed up now, although we've had adrenaline pumping through our veins all morning, so it hasn't been too chilly. So unfortunately, the leopard and the 2 cubs gave us the slip. They were on their way towards Leopard Dam, but then they turned around and went back, and I can't figure out where they've gone. So they probably just sat down, maybe underneath the shrub in the long grass, waiting to go and have a drink of water, maybe a little bit later. So we're going to leave them and let them do their thing, and maybe we'll be lucky enough to relocate them this afternoon. But I'm sure Mom will be in search of something to eat again. It's going to be quite tough for her to keep her 2 cubs firstly entertained and full. So we'll just have a little scratch around here. I'm thinking we'll probably just poke our nose in down towards Leopard Dam, which is literally just here. And then we can see what we can find. Haven't seen or really heard any elephants today. Surprising. But maybe we'll need to go down towards the east, or actually around the eco-training camp, and see if the elephants are going to come for a drink. I know, Eric. Yes, it is bizarre that I haven't showed you an elephant, but don't worry. It'll happen. It will definitely happen. But right now, look at what's... I'm just going to stop here, and we'll just listen. But, so we're at Leopard Dam, so we're really not far away from where the leopard had its kill. I think if we're like 300 meters away from the dam, from the knobthorn tree, that's maybe even pushing it. So just in the water, you can see there's a fair amount of green forming on top. But this is not great. This is blue-green algae. that is sort of, I suppose, polluting the water of Leopard Dam, and I'm wondering if this is why we're not seeing as many animals coming to drink here. This causes serious toxins in the water and can result in poisoning of the animals, and there is quite a few animals that die of the blue-green algae poisoning. I've forgotten the name of a leopard, but there was a leopard in the Sabi Sand that ended up dying from it after autopsy results showed this. But it's all settling in the middle now. It was pushed up to the northern side of the dam, but that was because of the wind that we had a few days ago. It all blew it over there. But now it's starting to spread in and pretty much cover the whole width of Leopard Dam. Oh. Yes, Megan, it does. Blue-green algae can kill a whole bunch of different life forms. So it isn't really nice. I'm a bit sad to see that it is forming on top of this, of the water. Anyways, I think that's why the elephants haven't been spending too much time here. They enjoy nice, clean water. And if it is available, they definitely will drink the cleanest.
So we are down close to the riverbed now, going down into the riverbed itself to drive back up. Rowan, one of our guides, has spotted this leopard on foot earlier on. Looking at the size of the animal, it looks like it could have been Nyala female. She is a very nice, relaxed leopard in most cases if you find her in a vehicle. But if you see her on foot, she's often quite shy. She gives you a little bit of a run around. So she definitely moved from where Rowan first saw her. And now Rowan is up in a bank walking around to see if he can pick up more tracks. I'm checking down in the river to see if we can pick up any new tracks of her crossing over. There were tracks of both her and the cub earlier on. So we also just checking as well to see if she hasn't been successful or maybe there's a carcass in the area. So in the meantime, we haven't seen anything much in the riverbed. She could be just hiding in this thick, dense riverine area that we are on. Like we all know how great is the camouflage of a leopard. So unless you walk towards where she is, she must just tuck herself in that thick bush and just wait there. So as we drive slowly along, I'm checking for tracks, looking up trees for any carcasses, looking at Elizabeth. Of course, leopards are very, very elusive. Right now, we hoping hard that we'll so we are gonna walk the drive and stop and listen to hear if we hear anything that might spot this leopard before us, giving us a distress call. Some squirrel up in trees, anything or tracks on the ground, and see if you can find anything down here.
We have come to a place that smells of powerful algae, and that is the Chitwa Dam, where there are two resident fish eagles. One is sitting atop the tree. That is the juvenile, I think. Can't actually see properly. No, it's not. It's one of the adults. And there's an adult just below that, also in the same tree. And they've just given a magnificent fish eagle call that has echoed throughout the little valley that we're sitting in here. We're slowly starting to thaw out in the sun, which is very pleasant. I imagine where Barney is in the Timbavati River, he's probably still pretty chilly. You can hear the of the hippos. I find it such a relaxing sound. Well, Francesca, we'll sit here for a little while and see if it does call. You can hear a couple of Egyptian gooses having a go at each other. Thank you, Louis. You say, if it doesn't call, I'm a good Foley artist, so I can just do the call for you. Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea. I am exceptional at doing the fish eagle call. I just wouldn't want to distress them with my exact replica of a fish eagle call. They might think that their territory was under threat. So far, not a great enthusiasm for calling. BK, while we wait, can you go across to that tree that is sticking out of the water? The tree that at one stage during the drought, if you can believe it, I walked across to climb upon. Now, I am not blessed of a divine disposition, so I didn't walk across the water. It was entirely dry all the way to that tree. It's almost inconceivable. Now, on that tree, there are some swallows, some tiny little swallows. The very top, there's a little swallow. You'll have to zoom in as far as you can. There we are. And one on the top. And swallows in the winter are quite fun because, well, they're not very common. Or some species are not very common, some species are entirely absent. Now, this is a very tiny swallow, and it's got a slightly rufous head, and it's living in a small flock. And so what we'll do is identify it for you. Actually, for me as well, just as much as for you. And what it is a pearl-breasted swallow, which is not common. And its designation is an uncommon, or its status is an uncommon to fairly common resident and winter visitor, which is quite interesting. So that's the pearl-breasted swallow. Let me read to you what the call is. The call is a twittering chip-chiree, chip-chip. Ah, look, I've got a pretty good ear, I'd say, but I can't hear any chip-chiree, chip-chip going on around here. I can, however, hear some fairly enthusiastic Shangaan being spoken from the Chitwa Chitwa Lodge. Oh, good, Amber. You said it's a new bird for you. I suspect it might be a new bird for a couple of people who are watching. We don't often spend much time identifying the swallows. We probably should. I believe Taylor has left her magnificent leopard, and she's now found something else.
Very different, but also not out of the ordinary for me. Eric here, the elephants, as promised. Eric thought it was quite strange that I hadn't put elephants on camera this morning, but we're with a herd. Actually, I don't know if it's a herd. I've only seen bulls so far. You can hear lots of branches breaking, but the bulk of them are coming out of the thicket now. And again, we're not very far from a leopard dam. We are just a few hundred meters east of the area. A lot of these look like bulls, although there's one with a very square, sharp head back in there. Perhaps that's a female. And they're just taking their time to come on out. But it's been quite a pleasant morning here on Pridelands. So relaxing. And I hope we get to have a great interactive elephant sighting. That would be the cherry on top for me. No, that's not a female, that is a bull, by the looks of it. Just an older bull. Maybe we just got a bachelor herd here. We've been seeing so many of the bulls, and again, it's also something that's not uncommon to see, is to see big groups of elephants traveling together. They seem to have favorite places that they go to. Watering holes being, I think, the most the most frequented area. But at Pridelands, we're spoiled. We get to see big breeding herds, which is great, and then we get to see all the boys hanging around together. You know, in some places, like in the Sabi Sand, I didn't see too many bachelor herds. When I was working down in the southern section of the Sabi Sand, then yes, then I saw actually some really awesome sightings with really big elephant bulls, like 10 or 20 enormous bulls. In the Kruger National Park, you typically see it as well. And then there's a fairly large fella just coming out to the right now. And then Pridelands is great for a varied amount of sightings. And I think it's important that we know where the bulls are and what they're up to. It must be quite daunting for them once they leave the herd to try and figure out where they're going to find food and water for themselves, because they always used to, well, they typically rely on the matriarch or the older elephants in the breeding herd to have all this information, you know, all this knowledge stored. And then when they move off and go in different directions and start exploring, they've got to do all that thinking for themselves. So I think that's also why they enjoy spending time with older bulls, or the younger bulls, so that they can learn and maybe obtain some knowledge, steal some little secrets to life and how to make it as a bull elephant in Africa. They're moving right towards us, so I like that gap through the marula trees. Very pretty. Yeah, they're all feeding in this direction. It does just look like bulls at the moment. So it's actually quite a few of them. It must be about 20 elephant bulls. No kumo, no really big ellies though, all fairly young, all feeding with one another. We've also learned some important lessons on elephant males and their sort of ecological role. I know that there were some mistakes that were made a couple of years ago with introducing young elephant bulls into reserves and them coming into must when they shouldn't have, and it resulting in elephant bulls wanting to pretty much mate with anything and everything. The females were not taking to them and obviously completely resisted them. And then, so you may have remembered the stories about the elephants killing the rhinos because they were trying to mount them. That's exactly what was happening. But luckily that was rectified by introducing some big bulls, big elephant bulls, to teach all the youngsters a lesson, and that they can earn their place within the ecosystem. Anushka, maybe. I mean, typically elephant bulls have much larger footprints than females. And the other thing that you could just look at is it a track on its own, or is there a whole bunch of other tracks? And if there's lots of tracks and they're calves, you know, you could maybe, or little small footprints, you could maybe try and pinpoint it that way. But then you also get some really large elephant cows. So if you saw one single track on its own going down the road, your guess of saying that it's a bull would probably be correct. But again, not always the case. So maybe just keep something like that in mind. I don't know if there's an exact way. Perhaps if you did the measurements to see how tall it was would help you. But again, it's difficult because of size. Well, we might see where these elephants go, or maybe we'll go off and try to find some more ellies.
Now, we have disappeared for a little while, but we've been on a massive mission, and the mission is these lions. We have piping hot, fresh tracks of 2 male lions, and we have been following them all the way into Simbambili. We've just passed the Pungwe, and I think we're about to hit the Mangileti. That's how far we've came. The Nkuhumas and the Avokas are here. I think, now again, it's just a think, that this is Mohawk and Blondie all the way. There's 2 sets, and they so fresh they go all the way up here. So I think we heard that the Nkuhumas, our main lion pride, were on elephant plains yesterday. There was lots of buffalo here, there was lots of zebra, and I think they may have came this way in a more easterly direction. And what I'm guessing has happened here is that this is the Avoca male lions following them. So they will have heard them contact calling, and purely through vocalizations, which can travel up to about 7 kilometers. I just stalled the car. 7 kilometers on a good day, and on a cold day, it's going to travel even further. I think they've been vocalizing with one another, and this is the Avocas on their way to meet the Nkuhumas. And some of you, wow, you'll see there's a gate in front of us. This is not something you normally see on Djuma. The two males have walked right along the gate, and we've been following them for such a long time now. There's their tracks there. So we're just going to keep going for now. You never know. Hopefully we'll find them. And even if we don't find them on time, maybe we'll at least be able to know where they are for the afternoon. I haven't seen the Nkuhumas in a very long time. Okay, I am going to try and figure out what on earth these lions are up to. And as I do that, it appears like James has some warthogs.
Here are some pigs. A sounder of pigs. Looks like 2 sows and their babies. 2 sows and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 youngsters, which are not so young anymore. They're just about through their first winter. Well, they're in the middle of their first winter, I suppose. They haven't got their tusks yet. They've still got those rather shiny bits of white fur where their tusks will be eventually. It's quite a nice sighting of them because they do tend to run away rather than stand and be observed by us. Even though we've got a lot of warthog bottoms in the air, one must admit they are fine bottoms. All of them are now on their knees. And if I was one who took things personally, I might think that they were telling me something. When I arrived, they were all looking at me. But now they have turned and showed their bottoms to me. I hope that isn't some sort of warthog sign of contempt. None of them look thin, they all look very healthy and fat, because as I was saying yesterday, it's not a difficult winter, this one. It's not particularly cold, there's lots of water around, and the good rains have left lots of food. Neri, you're 5 years old and want to know what baby warthogs are called. They are called piglets, in the same way that a pig is a piglet. And they're a type of pig, you see, and so they're called piglets. I suppose if you wanted to, you could call them warthoglets. So those are 2 sows. So Neri, we refer to all adult female pigs as sows. So if they were wild boar or bush pigs, domestic pigs or warthogs, we'd refer to them as sows. And the males would be known as boars, B-O-A-R, boar. And the youngsters all known as piglets. There are lots and lots of different kinds of pigs around the world. Beverly, Warthog Society is run much in the same way that this sort of Scandinavian democracies work. It's a semi-socialist society where taxes are very high, but education, medical care and that sort of thing is all paid for by the government, and there's a social net, for those who come across hard times and that sort of thing. So, that's generally how Warthog society is run. Unlike the hyenas, which obviously have a much more autocratic system. Obviously, I'm talking nonsense. There is no taxation in the warthog world at all. In actual fact, what you're seeing here is a classic kind of social situation for warthogs. It's normally one or two adult females and their related offspring of up to a year old. So these chaps here, I didn't manage to sex the youngsters, will disperse slowly if they're boars. The females might stay with mum for a bit longer, and that's the kind of situation. So, and as with a lot of male mammals, the young males will go off in a little bachelor herd to start with, and then when they get big enough, they'll become more and more independent and live on their own, or in a very small, I would say, temporary group. It won't necessarily be a permanent group. But this is the classic arrangement of females and youngsters. And lots of mammals have a very similar variation on this, with a couple of closely related females and their related offspring. Elephants, lions, kudu, nyala to a certain extent. Now, the best thing to do on a chilly morning like this, especially up in the Kalahari, where it really does get very chilly, is to lie in the sun.
So these little meerkats have been doing quite a bit of burrow maintenance over the past couple of minutes. There's been a lot of digging going on. It's warming up nicely now. Eric asked us earlier about armored ground crickets, and we have looked everywhere. We haven't been able to find any, so I don't know if there's actually any around at the moment with this cool weather, but yeah, we'll keep looking, see if we can find some for you. Yeah, and hopefully, I mean, we thought maybe there might be a couple around here, but we haven't seen any. But anyway, we'll keep looking for those. Yes, it's a beautiful morning out here. So these meerkats I think are going to go foraging quite soon. I don't know when, but I've been getting it very, very wrong the past couple of days, saying, they'll be out soon, and then they don't. And but no, I just think there's so much food around. Even though we're deep in winter, I think that these meerkats are really not battling for food. So I think there's no pressure. We've actually seen them in really like drought years, where they wake up and they sun themselves for like 4 or 5 minutes, literally, and then they off. And it's like constant digging, looking for food and that. So that's in a time like that, leading back on from a question earlier, of about the group sizes, and also why would they be having pups at this time of year. It is really resource driven, So I think I'm optimistic and I'm really hopeful. Again, barring something like a badger rocking up and gobbling up these pups and that. But with the amount of food around, I'm fairly optimistic that this is going to be a successful litter. Oh my goodness. Apparently there's an armored ground cricket right on me. Is that what you're looking at? This is Larry, the armored ground cricket, and apparently he's just been sitting here the whole time. But I think let's go put him back on the bush. unharmed where he came from, because I don't want to put him down here, because otherwise he's going to walk and these meerkats are going to snaffle him. So, and that wouldn't be right. So let me go put him back where we found him, and he can carry on sunning himself out of harm's way. Go on, little man, you can do it. There we go. Ayesha has just asked if these little almond ground crickets have any sort of acidic spray or spray for defense. And they actually do. And they spray it out of the back of the thorax, just at the rear end of the thorax, between the thorax and the abdomen. They'll spray it out there, and there's this really gooey yellow liquid. And animals eat it with like really long teeth. We actually saw a meerkat, was it yesterday, day before? Yesterday. Eating one, and you could actually see that yellow juice coming out. I don't think it tastes very good. I haven't tried it myself, but I'd imagine it doesn't taste good. I've seen hornbills and a number of other species as well. When they catch an almond ground cricket, they'll actually try and knock it against a branch quite a bit, and then you just get these like yellow jets of this liquid popping out there. It's quite gross to watch, but the birds do that, and then they'll eat the almond ground cricket afterwards. So yeah, so we're just going to stick with these meerkats, see what they do over the coming minutes.
And we are still watching the elephants. It seems as though it's an enormous, that's not a word, an enormous group of elephant bulls making their way towards Leopard Dam. They're not too far off now, maybe like 100, 200 meters or so. Well, at least the first elephant. Then we're watching its bottom disappear. Oh, it's just, there's a kudu that actually just ran in front of it. Okay, let's carry on forward. Well, we got another one. What is that? Gert has spotted something, but I'm not sure what he's seen. Ah, it's the kudu. You can just see its horns and its very big ears. There were two bulls that we passed, but I'm sure that they'll just scamper off as the elephants move on through, because they are moving with purpose to drink. So we shall go and watch them. We'll just carry on along and beat them. There were a whole lot of elephants on the other side of the drainage line coming in this direction, so I don't know how many there are. I think there's definitely more than 20 elephant bulls, which was exciting. Okay, so we're just going to pick up the pace just a little bit, just while we haven't got anybody to look at. Still keeping my eye out, because that leopard could be at the dam already. Okay, maybe we'll see the leopard or the cubs also drinking on one side. She normally comes and drinks down here at the bottom. Can't see anything yet, but we'll just approach nice and slowly so we do not startle her. Wait, that was a bump. There's lots of divots here that we need to come and fill up with rocks at some point, but there's just not enough hours in the day, I'm afraid, especially during winter. Okay, now where are the elephants? Okay, I'm going to stop here and I'm going to listen, because the elephants, like I said, that one that we'd seen was not very far, literally just over here. But taking another shortcut, I think that they wanted to drink on the other side of the dam. We'll wait here patiently, but off you go to Phinda to have a look at all the wonderful animals they have.
We do have an assortment of animals, and the assortment made up of animals with beautiful coats and beautiful patterns on their coats. Have a look at that herd of zebra, all busy grazing over there, and then a mother giraffe just in the front of them with her little one. just moving through the scrub there. So see how that little baby giraffe is sticking close to its mother, following in her footsteps. And if you look just behind it, there's another baby giraffe that looks to be about a similar age, maybe a slightly different, slightly bigger than the first one. And the initial thought would surely be that this is twins. Now, while there have been recorded cases of giraffes having twins, that is not the case in this instance, because if we pan to the left of the mother and her youngster, you'll see that there's a lot more giraffe up on the hillside. And what has happened here is that these two little giraffes of about the same age, they formed kind of a creche. So the two mothers have brought their youngsters together, and the little ones together, obviously same age, move around and play together, chase each other around. And it seems like this mother has been left to watch over the two of them while the rest of the group carries on feeding. But they're all kind of heading in the same direction, so I'm sure that this little one will be reunited with its mother soon. And often little giraffes like this will stay together for a couple of months in their little creche. Ewan, you're asking how strong are baby giraffes? Ewan, when they are born, in terms of strength, I'm not 100% sure what you mean. In terms of their actual body strength, when they're born, I suppose the way that they're born makes them pretty strong. So many animals or many ruminants like cows and different kinds of antelope, when they give birth, they will be lying down or quite close to the ground. And so when that little one is born, it doesn't have too far to go. You know, it kind of just comes out onto the ground, and it's a relatively gentle birth. But for that little giraffe, its mother remains standing up while it gives birth. And so that poor little giraffe, his welcome into the world, is being dropped from a great height onto the ground. And it's thought that that's kind of massive bump that it gets from falling out or falling from that height is akin to a little baby getting smacked on its buttocks when it's born, to kind of get it to cry and get it to open its lungs and stuff. So in terms of that, I would say it's pretty strong. But in terms of being able to defend itself against predators, Ewan, it's not very strong at all, unfortunately. It will rely very heavily on its mother for protection. She's got those long legs with massive hooves on the end that can deliver an immensely powerful kick to any would-be predator. And even things like lions will be wary of those hooves and those long, powerful legs. So as with those long, spindly legs, it is able to run relatively fast. And of course, also with its mother having such a long neck and such good eyesight, she'll be able to spot danger coming from quite a way away, and then be able to warn her youngster that it's time for us to get out of here before the danger gets too close. See, our zebra herd has been joined by even more zebra. There's now an enormous herd of them. So we're going to carry on with our giraffe, or perhaps leave them and carry on and see what else we can find. In the meantime, though, we'll see what Barney's giraffe's up to.
Look at how beautiful is his face, with all those lumps in his face. That's all calcium deposits. This looks like he's quite an average size male. He's still gonna grow a bit. Oh, look at how inquisitive he is, staring right at us. You can see how long his eyelashes are as he's staring at us like that. Looks like he's listening a bit. He's in quite a nice dense vegetation where you can be able to hear things nicely without being disturbed by the wind. See how he's changing his ears, moving them individually, pointing in different directions at a time. Looks like he's just done a 360 of listening around, just making sure he is familiar with what's happening around him. Look at him stretching and getting some of those tamboti leaves, which is the tree that he's feeding on at the moment. Elizabeth is really a handsome guy. Look at how he's stretching nicely to reach to the top of the leaves to avoid competition. Doesn't want to feed lower where the females are going to feed if they are to come, because they can't reach where he's feeding right now. Every now and again, when he reaches higher up, you can be able to see most of his tongue. It's amazing how nice and black that tongue is. He's a hungry boy, looking at how he's ripping those leaves, eh? So a tamboti tree is quite a tree that not so many animals will feed on for quite a long time because of the milky latex that is on the leaves. But this boy has been feeding on this tree for quite a while. Don't know, maybe he's got a little bit of a stomach problem himself. There is something he's trying to flush out, because he's really going for it. It looks like he's also enjoying this nice warm sun. Douglas, I didn't hear your question clearly, but if you're asking if male giraffes are getting bold because they fight, yes, Douglas, you're 100% right. Yeah, the ossicles get bold on top because that's where they hit each other when they fight. And slowly but surely over the time, the hair that's supposed to be at the top, like females have, get rubbed off from that fighting. It looks like he didn't really enjoy the sun as much. He's moved more into a shady spot, which makes it slightly difficult to see. But this goes to show how great their camouflage can be. So camouflage doesn't only work for small mammals. You see, this is a big mammal, right? Not too far from where we are, but now that he's moved into the shady spot, you can hardly see that he's there. On that note, while we struggle to see him, we'll let him be. Carry on the riverbed. Have one last look towards the area where we had that leopard earlier on that we can't find now. Maybe some monkeys are going to help us out. There was one calling earlier on, but they kept quiet too quickly.
A haul of 2 individuals, of which one you can only see that has just finished having a drink of water. Now going to squeeze between 2 leadwood trees. Maybe have a scratch. No mud bathing, no water splashing, just a simple drink. Well, I am still hopeful that the rest of the boys will make their way down to the dam, and it would be quite nice if they all lined up so that we could count them. But I suppose food is also a priority for elephants, and maybe there's something delicious that they're eating. But there's still young bulls just here. Now you can see that blue-green algae forming quite heavily on the surface. It's spread out, and it actually concentrates today in the the northeastern corner of the dam. Sure, the other day we came here and most of the dam was just completely green, but I'm glad to see that it has subsided slightly. And I don't know if the elephants enjoy this water so much, because what happens is that it actually affects the liver of the animals, the poisoning. But I don't think that it's in typically very high numbers right now, so perhaps they're still okay. But it'll be interesting to see. Gert, you know what else I've seen? I don't know if you can see them, but just on the corner closest to us, there's a whole bunch of blue waxbills. Can you see them? There you go, on that little shrub there. There were quite a few of them. No, where did they go? They were literally, they're still sitting there. Go down a bit to where you were, on that shrub. Yeah, that little stick is almost making for the perfect platform. There are quite a few little blue waxbills, and I think I saw some firefinches. And they're obviously coming down to have a drink too. Oh no, they've now flown off. Classic little birds. You can just see them flittering away through the bushes. There we go. There's one in the distance. You can just see a little bit of blue. You can even hear them. So I think there's actually a bird party that's coming through now. You can hear that chip, chip, chip. Sarafia, I actually don't know what would happen, what the conservation policy is in this particular area about blue-green algae, but I know that they did try to do something about it in the Kruger National Park at one point. They were at one particular dam. They had a lot of poisonings sort of happening, and they suspected it to be because of the number of hippos that were in that particular dam, obviously contributing to the putrid water with all the urine and feces. I mean, hippos are quite gross in that sense. I'm not actually sure. I think it's obviously too soon to panic, and we'll just have a look. It's not particularly bad, but it is starting to build up. But also having this blue-green algae is normal. I mean, it's been around forever. It's also thought to have been one of the first green living plants on this earth. So it's not a new thing, and it's not a new problem. It definitely does arise every now and then, but normally I think it's controlled. So I suppose we'll just sort of see and wait. I haven't seen it forming at Ndlovu Dam, the dam near camp, but maybe that's because there's so much activity and the water's constantly being churned up. Like I said, for the last few weeks, there hasn't been much activity at Leopard Dam until this morning, because here come the rest of the elephants. Well, at least another 3 on their way. Oh, no, they're coming in now. So you can see if there are any cows, but I don't think so. I think it's just elephant bulls of varying ages. You can sort of see here come the teenagers on their way in. And some of the bigger bulls come through first, all slowly picking their spots. A nice tall elephant bull making his way in with 2 much smaller elephants in tow. There's just so many elephants around, and every time I see them, I do try to make note of certain individuals, but it's very difficult to jot down, hygiene features of all of the eddies, and then you're bound to get some that, have the same length of tusk and also have a hole in the same ear. Well, I'd like to figure out who's hanging around with who. We know that Kumo has 2 young buddies. Well, I don't know if he is as entertained by them as those 2 bulls are by him. We saw him at camp, obviously, yesterday afternoon, and he had his friends with him. But he doesn't really interact with them very much. He spends much of his time on his own. There you go, one of the taller bulls being quite bossy and pushing another one out of the way. It is Annette. It's an absolutely incredible sighting to see these bulls here, and they're coming in from all different angles. Okay, I exaggerated there. They were all coming in from the eastern side of the dam. But they were on the southern side of the drainage line, so they've obviously just crossed and are wanting to drink. But because the dam is drying up now, there's a lot more spots for the elephants and all the different animals to drink from. Obviously, with an elephant, they're not perturbed by getting their feet wet, so they're quite happy to wade on in, whereas something like a leopard or a lion, or even a caracal, a serval, African wildcat, would prefer to drink in an area where it's not too muddy, and the ground is a little bit more sort of stable, not so soft. They don't like to get their paws wet when they don't have to. But buffalo, rhinos, warthogs also, they'll come in pretty much from any angle, as long as it's not too steep. No one wants to really drink with a big steep wall behind them. Obviously, that can be quite dangerous. You put yourself in a bit of a predicament, like if you, I suppose you're cornering yourself. But how are these sounds? They're so lovely to listen to. Gert, can you see the waxbills now? See, they're drinking. I don't think you can hear them, I'm afraid. But there's all the waxbills have come down now to the corner of the dam. But I just want to show you, yeah, there they all are, how nervous they are when they come to drink water. There's still quite a few of them, but these ones are the brave enough ones to come down. So when you are birding near, we are wanting to do birding at a watering hole, take sort of something like this in note. We were just talking about being able to drink in a sort of open area. Now, little waxbills like this, and there's a firefinch, they don't really want to be out in the open because they're a target to small raptors. Sorry for, we'll see, it's just a little bit unsteady. Apologies for that. We're having some issues with the camera head. So basically they will utilize little bits of shrubs and things like that, where, they can come down for a drink and then quickly fly back into some vegetation. And it looks like the tree that they're sitting on has got some thorns, some spines on it. So that will definitely aid in protection. It'll be a bit of a deterrent to any raptors wanting to drink them. So you'll find all the small birds gathering like that at a point where if they need to fly away quite quickly, they have got some scrub to sort of head into. There's lots of little birds coming around now, and more elephants arriving at the scene. I wish you could hear the sounds, but like you say, we're on the complete opposite side of Leopard Dam. Richard, maybe in small amounts this algae would be useful, but give some kind of nutrients to the animals, but I don't think so. Blue-green algae is not particularly great. Elephants are notorious for feeding on a variety of plants that have medicinal uses to them, so I'm pretty sure they must have some idea of the medical properties and how it can help them. But in terms of them coming to drink this water because they know that it might fix a stomach ailment, I don't think so. It's been weird. There's been very little activity around this dam. The last sort of decent elephant sighting I had here was when we had Ezulwini, the mighty tusker, and he came down here. And then we pretty much pass Leopard Dam every single day, just because wherever there's water, there's going to be life and animals. Some days not so much, but it's a good point to check. There's been a few zebra coming down to drink, an impala, but not this much action, unless we just keep missing it. We're not sitting at this dam 24/7, so that could also be a possibility. But no, it doesn't do too good. I also don't know how much fish life is in here. I would imagine having a healthy fish population could control things like algae building up, because there are a fair few species that will feed on it. But if it completely covers the surface of the water, it's going to be huge drama. It also doesn't allow any light to reach beneath the surface of the water. Okay, well, I'm going to ponder about these elephants. Off we go to Phinda, and it seems as though they've got their eyes fixed on the floor.
So we've been driving around the open plains here, checking all of the prominent kind of open sandy patches, termite mounds, different places where these cheetah might be resting, trying to soak up some sunlight. And what we found is a termite mound that has been absolutely destroyed. Now, Marcel showed you that little track in the ground there, and have a look at how it's 3 long toes, And at the front of each toe, there's a bit of an indent of a nail. And that track is from an aardvark. And that is the culprit of all of this destruction over here. So what has happened here is the aardvark would have come in and it would have sniffed out this termite mound, and then it would have used its powerful claws and its big forearms to dig down into the ground. And this ground is pretty hard. This is, if I dig with my fingers, I can't even make a dent into it. So for an aardvark to have dug a hole like this, and it looks like it goes down probably at least up to my shoulder, so about an arm's length that it's dug down. And what's interesting to see also is, I don't know if you can see all of these little white things lying around here. These are all termites. These are all termites. Some of them are still alive, but look at how pale they are. And so this is what this aardvark would have dug this hole to get at, to feed on all of these termites. He would have used his long tongue to slurp up all of the termites. And they've obviously been moving around trying to repair their home. And like I said, look how pale they are. Because these termites don't have melanin in their, or don't have much melanin in their skin, they can't be exposed to light or to sunlight for too long. And I think that's why all of these little termites have died. There's a couple of workers that are moving around, and these particular termites, called harvester termites, I don't know if you can see that one there. See how that one's quite dark in color. Oh, there he goes. So those ones they're okay to move around in the sunlight, but obviously these paler ones, not so much. Leaping lizard, you say this looks like a feast. For an aardvark, absolutely. It looked like it did have a good meal here. And I'm just amazed by the depth of this hole. If I try and put my arm in here, I'm not even getting close to the bottom. And interesting to see these little flattened parts. Where it sat. Yeah, amazing. So no cheetah this morning, but still a very cool little sight. Very interesting.
Wild Earth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the Wild Earth family.
It's not every single day that we get to see all these big, wonderful creatures, but we have been very lucky today at Pridelands, where we've had leopards and elephants and even some kudu, which are normally quite shy and are seldom seen. Well, we see them every now and then, but we just get a glimpse of them before they dash on off into the bushes. But here the elephants are quite happily splashing about, churning the surface of the water with their trunks so that they get the nicest, cleanest water. It's quite nice how they've arranged themselves according to their height. I like that. Very clever elephants. A few of them were stretching up just a moment ago, feeding on the trees that are overhanging in the water. But it is a very, very peaceful scene, and I think a very fitting way to end the safari, which unfortunately is coming to an end. We haven't got too much time left with you, but I'm looking forward to seeing all those screenshots that you've taken and you've shared with us. And there they go. And there's more elephants on their way. It sounds like there's another herd. Maybe it's still the boys, or perhaps it's a breeding herd moving on in. But I counted at least 15 individuals that are lined up against the dam, and I'm sure there were more, which is a significant bachelor group. But maybe we'll see them this afternoon with a few more of these bigger animals. But thank you once again for joining us for another wonderful sunrise safari. We're definitely going to be doing it again this afternoon, except, well, the sun will be setting. Maybe we'll have the chance to show you a real African sunset It's been a beautiful day today. Right. It's time to say goodbye, but we'll see you a little bit later. So remember to join us on the Sunset Safari.